Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back again with yet another story and another storyteller. Today, our storyteller is quite interesting. As Dr. Ruplin has very aptly quoted, don't let mental blocks control you. Set yourself free, confront your fear, and turn the mental blocks into building blocks. And that's what our storyteller for today, Mr. Roy Anderson from England, has adhered to. Roy is an amazing author, storyteller, and an educational scientist, and a storyteller. He is a recognized global educational expert with nearly 40 years in the development of school system and has a personal following of 25,000 educationists around the globe. He is much appraised for his many years of scientific research into what intelligence is, how to prove the importance of the school, and how teachers can teach better. He has devoted all of his adult life to the better development of children and has assisted in the design and planning of social and educational programs with the ministers of education of Denmark, Latvia, and Nepal, and is developing teaching concepts to help teachers to perform better and effectively. Roy has much experience in educational planning, but is also a trained deaf and blind teacher, a specialist in conductive education for disabled children, and is an expert in intelligence. He is the inventor of the brain environment complex theory, which presents a new concept to what intelligence is and how children learn. He travels the world to explain to politicians, educationists, and parents why school fails today and why and how each school can raise the performance of its students, but more importantly, why we need to prepare our children with higher skills for very different world they must live and work in. Our failing in this will deprive the future global citizens of the higher language skills that will need to maintain democracy in a world dominated by artificial intelligence. Through his great experience in teaching, he has developed the Andersen attitude method of teaching, which is widely accepted as a simple but highly effective means for the normal teacher to dramatically improve the learning and grades of all of their students. He has recently conducted teacher trainings in Algeria, Nepal, India, Turkey, Thailand, Indonesia, Australia, and many more such countries. He is an author. He believes in writing books, telling stories, and in that continuation, he has written 7 books said by professors for education around the world to be some of the best books written about school, society, and learning. Let's welcome Mr. Roy Anderson. Good evening,
Hello.
Mr. Roy. How are you? Namaste.
Namaste.
How are you?
Namaste. Hello, Rena. I'm very happy to be here again with you, and I'm looking forward to
So much.
our young listeners.
Yes, today we have with us some of the most amazing and most interactive kids. We have Gurpreet, we have Kashika, we have Tavisha, we have Ashmeet Jot, we have Khushpreet Kaur, and still kids are joining. Right
Wonderful.
now, Shrishti has joined us. So without wasting time, I will hand over the stage to you. It's all yours. Thank
Thank,
you.
thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Roy. I come from England, and I love to tell stories. I told stories to my children until they were 15 years old. And what I found out was that stories are magical. They can put you in a world of imagination and adventure, but they can also teach you lessons for life. I'm going to tell you a little story now, and I wonder if you can find some of the qualities that you might admire in the story I'm going to tell you. The story began a long time ago. In another country, in another city, in another town, there was a prince. He was very, very rich. And he had very nice clothes and he lived in a nice palace. And everybody wanted to make him happy. And around his palace, he had a big wall. And he never saw outside the wall. He never saw how the real people lived. And his life was a happy life. And they called him the Happy Prince. One day, the Happy Prince died. And then the people in the town, they made a big statue of the Happy Prince so that everybody would be happy. And they put a big column in the middle of the town, and on top of the column, they put a statue of the prince. And the body of the prince was made of metal. And on top of the metal, they covered with gold. And on his sword, they put a ruby, red ruby, on his sword. And for his eyes, they put blue sapphires, kind of like diamonds, very expensive. And everybody would walk around the town, and they'd look up at the Happy Prince, and they'd remember to be happy. But really, they weren't. And now our story moves to another country, long way away, where there were birds. There were swallows. You know how a swallow can swallow like that. And when the winter came, the swallows had to migrate. They went south, where it was warm. And that night, all the swallows rested before they would begin their long journey south to Egypt. And in the morning, they woke up and they all began to fly, except for one swallow, one little bird who was fast asleep. He didn't wake up. He was happily in a dream. And when he did wake up and he found that all the other birds had left, he was very frightened. He was very worried because he knew he'd have to travel such a long way all by himself. But the little bird was very strong and very courageous, so he began to fly. He flew by the magnetic currents, and he went south and south and south, but he began to get tired. And he looked down and he saw a city below. And he thought, well, I'll rest in the city tonight, and then I'll continue my journey tomorrow. And as the little bird flew down, he wondered where he could rest for the night. And he saw the golden statue of the Happy Prince. And he thought, well, I'll rest by the feet of the Happy Prince. So he landed between the feet of the statue. And he closed his eyes and he put his wings around himself. And he began to fall asleep. But then water fell on him. And he thought, the prince should be keeping me away from the rain. And then another water came down. And the little bird was very puzzled where the water was coming from, because it wasn't raining. And then he looked up. Another water came down. And then he saw that the eyes of the prince were crying. So the little bird flew up to the prince's head and said, Prince, why are you crying? And the prince said, all my life, I lived in a happy world. Everything was happy. I didn't know how other people suffered. And I really wasn't interested because I was happy where I was. I had everything I wanted. But now I look down at the city and I see so many people suffering. Nobody's happy. And I lived in an illusion. It was not fair. I didn't understand it. I didn't know it at the time. The little bird said, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I must rest because I have a long journey tomorrow. And the prince said, little bird, before you go, would you please take my ruby from my sword, a very valuable gem, and take it down to a room, because in a room I can see an old lady. Her hands are very worn and very prickled because she's making sewing. And next to her is a child in bed, and the boy has a fever, and he's shivering because he's not well, and he's hungry, and the mother has no food for him. And I worry if he'll survive. I want him to be happy. Well, the little bird said, well, I'm very tired, but okay, I'll do this for you, just this once. And the bird took the ruby in its beak and flew down to the house. And the old lady was asleep, and the bird laid the ruby on the table next to her. And then he flew around the boy with his wings, cooling the boy down. And the boy began to feel happier because the temperature was getting better. And then the bird flew back to the prince and said, "Well, I've done what you asked me, prince. Now I must sleep." And the bird yawned very loudly. "Hmm." And the prince said, "Little bird, before you sleep, could you do one more thing for me?" And the little bird said, "I'm very tired, but you're such a kind prince. What do you want?" And the prince said, "Well, I can see a man who's writing a play, and the owner of the theatre is going to be very angry with him because he hasn't finished. And the man is so cold because he's got no money for fire, and he's so hungry because he's got no money for food. But I know his play will bring a lot of happiness to people. And I want you to take one of my sapphires from my eye and take it down to the young man." And the bird said, "I can't take your eye." And the prince said, "I command you to take one of my eyes." So the bird took one eye, sapphire, and he flew through the city till he found the man. And he gave the man the sapphire. So the man could buy wood to keep warm and food, so he wasn't hungry. And with the fire to warmth and the food for energy, he wrote a beautiful story that gave a lot of happiness to other people. And when the bird returned to the prince, he was very, very tired. And he yawned a lot. And the prince said, "Little bird, before you sleep, I see down below a little girl. She's standing in the street. And she's selling matches. And the matches have fallen onto the road and they've got wet. And nobody will buy them. And I know that her father's going to beat her because she'll come home without any money. Could you please take my other eye and give it to the little girl?" And the sparrow said, "But prince, if I do that, you'll be blind and you won't be able to see." And the prince smiled and he said, "But I care about that little girl. Take my eye." So the sparrow reluctantly took the other eye and flew down to the little girl and dropped the sapphire into her hand. The girl was so happy with the sparkling gem, she ran home laughing and with joy. And she was greeted by her mother and her father with all the fortune that the girl had brought. And when the bird went back to the prince, the bird said, "But now you cannot see." And the prince said, "I know, but tell me about life. Tell me what you've seen." And the bird explained that on other journeys, in other winters, he'd gone to the summer and he'd seen other countries. And he told the prince about the people he'd met there, the kings and the queens, the merchants, the musicians, the theatre players, the poor people, the people who were starving, the people who were hungry. And when he said that, the prince said to the little bird, "I know in my city there are a lot of children with no money. They're very hungry. They shiver in the street, have no home, no love. Nobody loves them. I want you to take the gold off my body and sprinkle it around the city so that everybody can look after the children." The little bird did as the prince asked, and he took all the gold off, and he sprinkled it around, and then the children in the streets were so happy with the gold that they'd got, they could buy food, and they could buy sweets and clothes, and they were dancing with joy in the streets. And the happy prince could hear the children laughing and shouting and playing, and that made him happy. The little bird was very, very tired now, and winter was coming. And the little bird said to the prince, "I'm so tired, please let me sleep." And the prince said, "Thank you so much. You've been so very, very kind." The little bird flew down to the feet of the prince and closed his eyes and fell asleep. But that night it was very, very cold, and the cold wind went into the body of the bird, and the little bird died. And in the morning, the people of the town, they looked up and they saw that the prince had no gold. He'd just a dull metal body. And they decided that they didn't want this prince anymore. So they knocked down the column and they broke up the body of the prince. And they ordered that the body of the prince should be melted down because then they could make something with the metal. But the people in the furnace who melted down the body, they couldn't melt the heart. It was impossible. They tried many, many ways with different heats to try to melt the heart, but the heart wouldn't melt. And so they threw the heart outside onto a dump. And the heart fell next to the body of the little bird. And God said to one of his angels, I want you to go down to earth and find for me the two most beautiful, precious hearts that you can find. The angel came down to earth and found the heart of the prince and the heart of the little bird and took them back to God. And God said, you've done very well. These are the most two precious hearts that ever existed. They gave only love and they gave only kindness. And my friends, that was a story called The Happy Prince. It was written by a man called Oscar Wilde over 100 years ago. He was a very famous writer and he wrote a lot of stories, and I hope that you enjoyed that. Would you like to ask me any questions, please? Or would you like to write something? I can't hear anybody speaking.
Hello. Hello, Roy.
Hello, Rena.
Yeah, are you done with the story? Because there are some glitches in the your pictures are not clear. People are saying, just tell I'll call him. Yeah, the picture is not clear, and there is some problem because they are saying, sir, there your picture is not view, and they want to know the questions.
Well, the questions really were open-ended. Just what did they enjoy? What message do they think the story gave? Why do they think the little bird landed by the prince? Why do they think the prince was not happy? And what did the prince do to make the people happy in his town?
Just a minute. I'm just typing the questions one by one. Right?
Okay.
What message did the story give? Second is, why did
why did the bird fly south? What reason did the bird leave its home to fly south?
next?
Why was he called the Happy Prince?
Okay.
And was the statue of the Happy Prince happy?
Happy. Yeah.
And what were the 4 ways the prince did to make the people of his city happy? What are the 4 things he did?
What were the 4 things? What 4 things did
What
the
did the
prince
prince
do
do?
to make the people of his kingdom happy?
Yes. And then what did Shiva ask the angel to do?
Sorry, what?
What did Shiva ask the
What
angel
did Shiva ask the
to do?
angel to do? That's it.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. They are just answering.
Okay.
And meanwhile, let us see. Meanwhile, if you have another small story, you can definitely tell them any story which you would love to. By the
And how
time they,
and how long do we have for the story?
Till we do not like it can be it can be of any size because the kids they are still answering, and once they have finished answering, I will be calling them on online,
Okay.
and they will be on board with us.
Okay. So can you just give me three nouns? Give me any three nouns. Anything in your mind.
Child, dream,
Dream,
sweets.
sweets. There is a town called Ujget. Ujget is in Hungary. And Ujget is a city that's a town that's not very rich, and many of the children are very poor. But some of the children are rich because their parents are rich. And very often the poor children would watch the rich children go into the sweet shop and buy lots and lots of sweets. But there was one little girl, she was too shy to ask other friends for sweets. And she would just watch the children going in and coming out happily eating sweets. The little girl would love to have eaten a sweet. She'd never tasted one. She didn't know what it was like, but she knew it made the children happy. And that night, she went to bed hungry. And in her dream, she found a magic note, a magic coin, and it was hidden under an old carpet in her grandmother's room. And the little girl woke up from her dream and she kind of wondered if it might be true. So she went to her grandmother's room and the grandmother said, "Hello, dear, how are you?" And the little girl said, "I'm fine, Grandma. May I please look under your carpet?" And the grandmother said, "Yes, of course." The little girl lifted up the carpet, but there was no coin. And then she felt very, very sad. And the grandmother said, "What are you looking for?" And the little girl said, "Well, I had a dream, and in my dream, under your carpet was a coin. And with that coin, I could buy some sweets." And the grandmother smiled and she said, "Darling, I cleaned my room last night. I lifted up the carpet and I found this coin. It's yours." And the little girl was so happy. She said, "Thank you, Grandma." And she ran out, she ran all the way to the sweet shop and she bought lots and lots of sweets. But you know what? She gave them all to poor, poor children. And just watching the children happy made her happy. So she never tasted a sweet after all.
I'm sending them the links.
Okay.
Yes, Shrishti. We have Shrishti. We have yeah. Just give me 5 minutes. They'll be online.
Okay.
Kashika. Yes, sir. So I would like to ask you a few questions. What is it that keeps you moving?
Moving in what sense?
Like, what is the spark that keeps you going for whatever you do?
Okay. Well, when I was a child in school, I didn't understand anything the teacher was talking about. And I failed school completely. I got zero in all my final examinations. I failed everything. And when I was 20, I went back to school. And then I found out I could be really very clever. And then I got very, very high grades. And then I could do the job that I wanted to do. I wanted to work on a ship and sail around the world. And then when I did sail, I went to many countries. I went to South America, I went to the West Indies, I went to Italy, I went to Egypt, I went down to Australia and to New Zealand. And I remember once sailing from New Zealand to Australia, the sea was very, very crazy. And I was on a very, very big ship. But it was like a toy. The ship was going, whoa, whoa, like that for 3 days. And it was very exciting. But then in my 30s, I wondered if children still had problems to learn. And I found out that many children do learn because they don't understand how to learn. So I decided that I wanted to spend the rest of my life helping children to learn better so that they could leave school with the grades to help them to get the job that they dreamed of. And that's what keeps me going. That's my motivation.
Wow, that's really great. That's really great. Mayu has just logged in. Okay. There are two of them over here. One is Akal Preet Kaur. Akal Preet, unmute yourself, beta. Shrishti, please unmute yourself and come on the camera and switch on the
Good
camera.
evening, sir.
Hello, Akropreet. How are you?
I am good, sir. How
Thank you
are you,
so.
sir?
I'm very fine, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. Whereabouts? Where do you live? Where are you living?
I live in Jammu, Nanak Nagar.
Okay, okay. And is it very hot where you are now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. And great. And do you have a question for me?
No, sir.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
So,
I have one question.
okay.
Oh, she's out. She had a question and she's going to come back. There are
Right.
other kids who want to join. Okay, she's back. She's back. I'm just bringing them in.
Akropreet, hello, hello, my friend. What's your question?
Sir, I have a question. Why you choose this profession?
Ah, the profession of being a teacher because I want to help all children to get very, very good grades, very high marks, and so they can do whatever job they dream about. What job would you think you'd like to do when you grow up?
Sir, I want to become IAS officer.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm sure you'll be able to do that, and I'm sure your teachers can help you. And I know that Reena, ma'am, is very, very helpful if your teacher has a problem. She's very great guide to teachers. And I wish you lots of luck. And you know, the secret of getting your job is two things. It is one, is to never lose your dream. You'll be thinking about other things and you'll be thinking, oh, I must play this game and I must play that game. And play the games, of course, but only a little bit. And keep your studies. Remember all the information you've got to learn and ask your teacher questions. And if you don't understand something, ask your friends to help you. Or say to the teacher after the break, could you please help me? I didn't understand. And then if you keep this information alive in your mind, you'll get good marks and you get good grades, and you'll be able to be the IS officer that you would like to be. I'm sure. And I pray for you.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. Well done. Never give up your dream. Hold on to it.
Never give up your dream, Akal Preet, okay? Don't give up your
Thank you,
dream.
ma'am.
Start working now onwards. Mayur, Vartika, Kashika, Kavisha, I have sent you the email, the links. Please join in as soon as possible. You have plenty of time to talk to sir. I am
I could
not
repeat.
able to see you guys.
I could repeat. How many children do you have in your class? In your class, how many children do you have? 20, 30, 40? How many?
Sir, I have 18 students in my class.
Oh, you're very lucky. That's a very small class. I've been in some classes, there were 60 children. Wow, it's too many. 18 is very, very lucky. Do you like your teacher?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's very important. That's very nice. That's very nice. And what do you like to help your mother to do in your home? What do you like to help her with? Do you like to do cooking, or what do you
Sir,
like to
I,
help?
I like to write poems. I like to write stories. I like to cook. I like cooking, and I like to play badminton and do cycling.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. I used to like to cycle too. I'm no good at badminton, but I love writing stories. I've written many books, and maybe one day you can write a book too. What would you like to write a book about?
Sir, I like one book. The name of the book is The Adventure of Tom Sawyer.
Oh, well, that's a
The
very nice book.
Yes, sir. It is written by Mark Twain.
That's wonderful. I have not read the book, but I've seen the movie. That's wonderful. Okay,
Sir,
okay.
where are you from?
Well, I'm from the United Kingdom, from England. And I was born in Liverpool. Liverpool is a big city in England, and it's very famous because a lot of ships would go there from America and from Ireland. So it's a big harbour. It's a shipping harbour. Yeah. What's the name? Do you have any animals? A pet? Do you have?
Sir, I have The Adventure of Huckleberry Finn. Sir, Charlie the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
Sir, that's it.
Oh, Charlie the Chocolate Factory. Have you seen the movie?
Sir, please suggest me more interesting books.
Oh, Anne of Green Gables. There's a book
Sir, what?
Anne of Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables. I
Yes,
think
sir.
there's a lot of there's a TV series about it, and maybe even a movie. But I think you would love that. It's called Anne of Green Gables. It's about a girl in Canada, and she has lots and lots of adventures, and it's very fun. It's called Anne of Green Gables.
Okay, Green Cables.
Yes, Anne of Green Gables.
Sir, there is a question from Shrishti. She is
Okay.
not able to log in. She
Okay.
asks, which book do you like, sir?
Ah,
Which book do you like?
which book do I like? Oh, I think I like Harry Potter. I think Harry Potter is a very exciting stories.
Right. So, Shilpa, Shrishti, anything else you want to know? Yes, another question. She's still typing. Mayur, Neha, Tavisha, Mayur, Vartika, come online, please. Come fast. Kashika, mail has already been sent to you. Please come. Oh, there is internet issues everywhere. They are trying to log in. Okay, Gurpreet Kaur. Okay, I'll just. There is one more girl who sent her email ID.
Sir, I have to ask something.
Okay, ma'am, go ahead.
Sir, which is your favorite storyteller?
Ah, um, I I think my favorite storyteller is me. I love to tell stories. I love to tell stories.
Okay. Then again, Shilpa Shrusti has also asked, which is your favorite storyteller?
Oh, well, I don't know many storytellers, but I love to tell stories, so maybe I'm the best. I'm a good
Yeah,
storyteller.
Yes, sir,
because
you are the
you
best.
remove that block in your mind.
Ah, okay.
The
Move the block.
quotation is perfect. It's perfectly fitting on your.
Okay. So I think the lady who writes Harry Potter is a good storyteller. I don't know her name.
Great, great. So, guys, okay, there is this young a little girl, Mannat. She is asking, how do we select a story that gives us meaningful theme?
I think what we want to do is to have a story that makes us happy and that gives us a good way of living with other people. And so we like to choose a story that has a good story in it. We say a moral story, a moral way of something to learn, something to remember. And so we choose stories for a purpose. Sometimes, but sometimes we just choose a story because it sounds fun or it sounds exciting. It doesn't always have to be serious. It doesn't always have to have a meaning. It's just an adventure.
Hello? Mhm.
Sir, do you like fiction stories or non-fiction stories?
Oh, I like both. It depends on the story itself. I like adventure and I like things that help me to imagine stories. And I also like reading about other people. I like reading biographies, stories about
Okay,
people, other people.
sir.
I like. So what? Okay, um, I Caprit. Would you like to write a story and send it to Rena, Mum Rima? A little story, maybe one page, about an idea or an adventure that you'd like to have.
Non-fiction stories.
Well, anything you like, whatever it is, whatever you can imagine to tell a story in one page. So,
Sir, sir, I don't
Manat,
know what you.
switch on your mic and camera. Here we have another young girl. Her name is Manat.
okay, okay.
Sir, I'm from JNK.
No, no,
Sir,
hello.
I want to ask a
Hello.
question.
Hello, Manette.
Sir, hello, sir.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Sir, I am fine. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very, very good. Do you have a question for me?
Yes, sir.
What is your
Sir,
question? What is your
which
question?
story do you like most?
Oh, I think I like the story that I didn't tell about a little bird in China called a nightingale. And maybe I'll tell that story
Thank
next
you,
time.
sir, for telling me.
Manit, please say again. I didn't hear you. She's gone. Okay.
She's gone. She'll be coming back. She'll be coming back.
Sir, did you like the writers?
Uh, Akpred, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. Do I like? Tell me again.
Writers.
We have a question.
Okay.
Akal,
Yes.
please, you're reading the private chat, right?
Okay.
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. We have a question from Shrishti. She says, which is your favorite storyteller or writer? If you choose writer, so which book you like, what written by him? Book you like, which is written by him?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. I'm trying to think. Um, when I was a little boy, I used to love reading stories about a man called Biggles. And it was an adventure. He was always flying planes and having adventures. But then I think I liked very much stories by Tintin. I used to love those when I was a child, Tintin stories. Um, so I think my favorite author was Hergé, and the stories were Tintin. I like those. They were kind of cartoons, but I like the adventure. For me, I like Tintin.
So we have Tabisha over here.
Hello,
Good evening.
good evening, Tavisha. Good evening, Tavisha. Hello.
Sir, I want to ask you that why,
I like this storybook, and it is written by Dalmi.
sir, I want to ask you that why do you want to help children in studies? Why do like
Oh, well, Tavisha, that's a very, very good question. You see, when you're
This
a
was my
child,
favorite
before you,
storybook, and it is
before you
written by Dalmia Star.
okay, Manette. Okay, I can see that. That's beautiful. Okay,
And I have to read.
Tavisha, I think that I like very much that you
Three
have a dream.
chapters
Wait,
of
That you
this
find
Manat,
book.
something.
Manat, wait for some time, beta. Wait for some time. Sir is talking to Tabisha Didi. Okay?
Thank you, Rita. So, Tavisha, I think it's important to have a dream of what you'd like to do when you grow up. I don't know if you want to be a doctor or to make a fashion model or to be a computer person or to be a police lady, whatever it is. It's good to have an idea of what you'd like to be. And then I want your teachers to help you to get the marks you need, the grades that you need to be able to have that job that you want to do. That's what I want. Okay.
okay? Sir, which book do you think a physical book that we read from hand is better or that we read on internet is better?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Please say again, Tavisha. What did you say?
Sir, which book do you think is better? Like the book which we have at home and we are reading or the book which we are reading from internet?
Oh, I think it's nice to have a book, a paper book. I love to go into bed and turn the pages over. It's more exciting. And maybe you can even hide under the bed covers with the torch and read the book. It's much more exciting.
Kashika, please unmute yourself and please come on the screen. Yes.
Good evening, ma'am and sir.
I can't read it.
Good evening, baby. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Kashka. I couldn't see the writing. Good evening. How,
Good evening, sir.
how are you?
Sir,
Fine, sir. What about you?
story?
I'm very fine. I'm very, very good. Do you have a question you'd like to ask me?
Yes, sir. Sir, when do you started telling this story?
I'm sorry. Please say that again. Please repeat your question.
Sir, when do you started telling the stories?
When when do I start? Oh, when my children were born, I began to tell stories, and so I suppose really 35 years ago I started to tell stories.
So, which is your best story? Like, ma'am told us that you have written 7 stories. So, which is your best story?
Ah, yes, but these really are books about. It's very boring for you. It's about how school and teachers work together to be happy. But I think that they're not adventures. They're not adventure books. Not like you would like to read. Not yet. Um,
Okay.
but I did write an adventure story about a lady 300 years ago, and she had lots and lots of adventures.
300 years ago?
Yes, yes, yes.
Sir, 100 years ago.
300 years ago, Sir has written a story about a lady who was there 300 years ago.
Okay.
Sir, who
Any
is your favorite author?
Oh, uh, I think Mark Twain. I think Mark Twain. Mark Twain.
Okay, sir.
Sir, do you like reading to small children, like years old?
Yes, I do like reading, but I haven't read a book in a long time. And I'm glad that you asked me that question because you reminded me I must find a good book to read. Yeah, and
So
then
there is a question. There is a question from Srishti. She
yeah,
says, "Sir, why did you choose this occupation?"
I've already answered that, Rena. I just want to help children. I want children to be able to
Exactly.
understand their
I would
lessons. So
request. I would request. Please do not ask the same questions again and again. Please, I would request you all.
I tell you what, we have four students here. Can you give me say one thing for me? Please say one thing.
Sir, can you please pardon me?
I Tavisha, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. I didn't hear what you said. Can
Please
you give?
pardon me.
I didn't hear. Rena,
You asked her. You asked a question, right? They could not hear it. That's why she's asking.
oh, I see. If um, well, my time is running. I don't have so much time now, Rena. Can we close the session?
Yeah, I think we can.
Bye,
Okay.
sir. It was good.
Okay, beta.
Bye,
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
sir.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye, children. Bye bye, Tavisha. Bye bye.
Bye.
And Kavishka. Goodbye. Bye bye. Bye bye.
So here we end our session for today. Tomorrow we will be having Meera Bharat. She will be entertaining you with her stories. Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
taking time. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you. Namaste, Rena. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Here we end our session for today. Tomorrow we will be back again. Till then, bye bye and namaste.